So, how do we build a culture? Where do we start? What do we do?
Yeah, I think before we get into how you build it virtually, you need to understand how you build a culture at all, which is so important. And so the first step for building a culture is making sure that you have a platform and you clarify what is it that we stand for as an organization. So if you want everybody to collectively share a set of beliefs, you need to be very prescriptive with what those beliefs are. So there are three elements to it. This is the foundation of your brand and the foundation for any successful team to make sure we're steering the ship in the right direction. There's three elements. The first is your vision. So where is it that we want to go? And that vision might be in 5 years' time, but during an environment like COVID-19, it might be 1 month's time. Okay. So
Mm.
where are we all driving together towards? Number two is having a clear mission. And so a clear sense of purpose. A great example of this is that example where people say somebody went up to a janitor in NASA and said, "What do you do?" And they said, "I put a man on the moon." So that's a great mission because it's about having something that's bigger than what I'm doing in my 9 to 5 and making sure that we all live and breathe that. But last but certainly not least is a clear set of values. So, a great way that this comes
Mm.
into application is when you leave your team to handle a sticky situation on their own, there is no way as a leader that you're going to be able to give somebody a defined set of rules of how to deal with that because chances are every single interaction is going to be different. But when you have a set of values or a belief system, that gives your team a guide for how to interact and what's my rules of engagement that I sort of live within. And so that's the bare bottom foundation of building a culture is because you have to be very prescriptive about that. And I will say that is not just having some papers stuck up on a wall or that, cheesy um, motivational poster that you see in a lot of
Mm.
films and stuff that says, "Oh, we value teamwork" and things like that. It needs to be something that is a guide for living and breathing. And if you imagine when you onboard that new team member in and they go, "What's it like here?" Or "What do we do outside of get on my emails every day at 9 a.m.?" It's, well, these are the things that we value, and this is what we actually do as a team when we're working together to achieve that. I will say number two, once you have that foundation, is creating an open dialogue with your team across levels. So, what's important is that we never have an organization or a culture that is overly hierarchical. And I'm not saying that you need to completely strip that away because that's not appropriate for every single organization. But we can't just have our senior management team or our CEO sitting up top and then everybody else fends for themselves. You want everybody learning from each other. It's about continuous improvement. And so great cultures are talking to each other. They are constantly having these conversations. And third, you demonstrate the value you place in your team. So that's part of your investment back into them. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've got a great leader who I know is telling me how much they value their team. They're going home and telling their partner, they're telling their
Mm.
friends. Outside of work, they cannot stop talking about it. But then they get to their desk, they open their email, they see that we're behind on sales, or they get stuck in meetings all day, or they never have time to talk to people. And so what happens is there's a disconnect because you have your team that's going, well, I don't feel value. I don't feel seen or heard by my organization. And so what's happening is it's creating this further divide. And to have a great culture, you need to make sure that you are all having that open dialogue. How do we do that? By doing things that demonstrate that value. And I will say before we move forward, and I'll say this again, I'm sure in some of these questions, just having a pizza party or having a Zoom happy hour isn't demonstrating value to your employees if they're not enjoying those things. It's about listening to them in that two-way dialogue and then reacting and giving them a value that they actually value.